Welcome, everyone. The world is constantly changing, and countless events shape the global landscape every single day. One of the most significant and often debated phenomena is international migration, particularly the movement of people towards the United States. Did you realize that the very nature of immigration into the U.S. is undergoing a rapid and profound transformation? It's no longer solely about the act of crossing borders. The conversation has shifted dramatically. It's now crucial to understand where people are coming from, and more importantly, why they undertake such often perilous journeys. Is it the allure of a better life, the American dream? Or are they fleeing circumstances far worse than the challenges they face on the road? The origins of undocumented immigrants are shifting, painting a complex picture influenced by economics, politics, violence, and even climate change across the globe. While Mexico has historically been the primary source, the landscape is diversifying at an unprecedented pace. Countries from Central America, Asia, Africa, and South America are increasingly prominent in migration flows. Stick with us as we delve into the 15 countries currently sending the most undocumented immigrants to the United States. The answers and the stories behind the numbers might genuinely surprise you, offering a deeper insight into the global forces shaping lives and borders. We believe understanding these trends is vital, and we strive to bring you factual, in-depth analysis. If you find this exploration valuable, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support is incredibly important for us to continue producing this content. Also, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our global audience. Stay tuned until the very end, as we'll be drawing some important conclusions from the data and stories presented. Now, let's begin our countdown. Coming in at number 15 is Nigeria. Nigeria is a dynamic and populous nation situated on the western coast of Africa, celebrated for its immense cultural diversity and rich heritage. It stands as the most populous country on the African continent, with over 200 million individuals calling it home. This vibrant nation boasts abundant natural resources, most notably oil, which plays a significant role in its economy. However, despite this potential wealth, Nigeria grapples with considerable challenges that compel many of its citizens to look for opportunities elsewhere. Persistent political instability, widespread corruption, and significant economic disparity create an environment where achieving stability and prosperity is difficult for many. These deeply rooted issues have fueled a significant wave of emigration, with many Nigerians seeking better life prospects abroad, including a notable number heading towards the United States. In recent years, the U.S. has observed a marked increase in Nigerian immigrants arriving, driven by the aspiration for improved living conditions, access to better educational opportunities for themselves and their children, and the promise of stable employment. The United States government and various institutions have acknowledged the valuable contributions of the Nigerian immigrant community. They often arrive with essential skills, high levels of education, and an entrepreneurial spirit, enriching American society with their cultural diversity and strong work ethic. However, the journey and settlement process are not without obstacles. Many Nigerians face hurdles related to navigating the complex U.S. immigration system, securing legal status, and integrating into a new cultural environment. These challenges highlight the difficulties inherent in the migration process, even for those bringing valuable skills and a strong desire to contribute positively to their new home country. The story of Nigerian migration to the U.S. is one of resilience and aspiration amidst significant domestic challenges. Moving up the list, at number 14, we find Peru. Nestled in the heart of South America, Peru is a country renowned worldwide for its breathtaking and diverse landscapes. From the towering peaks of the Andes Mountains to the lush expanse of the Amazon rainforest, its natural beauty is captivating. Peru is also steeped in history, bearing the legacy of ancient civilizations like the Incas, who left behind iconic and awe-inspiring sites such as Machu Picchu, a testament to their sophisticated culture and engineering prowess. This rich historical tapestry, combined with stunning natural wonders, makes Peru a unique and culturally wealthy nation. However, despite its natural beauty and profound cultural heritage, Peru struggles with persistent socioeconomic issues. Significant economic inequality plagues the nation, creating vast divides between different segments of the population. Furthermore, recurring political unrest and instability add another layer of difficulty to daily life for many Peruvians. These combined factors, economic hardship and political turbulence, contribute significantly to the migration of Peruvians who seek a more stable and prosperous existence elsewhere. The United States often emerges as a primary destination for those looking for safety, stability, and better economic prospects for themselves and their families. Consequently, many Peruvian immigrants are drawn to the U.S. by the promise of economic opportunities and the chance to build a more secure future. The United States has witnessed a consistent influx of Peruvian immigrants over the years. These individuals often integrate into various communities across the country, contributing their unique traditions, skills, and celebrated culinary delights, enriching the American cultural mosaic. However, like many other immigrant groups, Peruvians encounter substantial challenges upon arrival. Navigating the complexities of U.S. immigration policies, obtaining legal status, and adapting to an entirely new culture and environment can be daunting. These hurdles underscore the difficulties faced by immigrants as they strive to build new lives, highlighting the need for supportive integration processes and clearer pathways within the immigration system. The emigration trend from Peru has notably surged recently, with official figures showing a sharp increase in Peruvians living abroad after a decade of decline, further emphasizing the push factors at play within the country. Next, at number 13, we have Colombia. Located at the northern tip of South America, Colombia is a country celebrated for its world-class coffee, vibrant and diverse culture, and stunning biodiversity, ranging from Caribbean coastlines to Andean peaks and Amazonian jungles. In recent years, Colombia has made significant strides in overcoming a long and difficult history marked by internal conflict and violence, notably achieving peace accords with major guerrilla groups. However, substantial challenges persist. Economic disparities remain stark, with wealth concentrated in certain areas and among specific populations, leaving many behind. Security concerns, although improved in some regions, continue to affect daily life, particularly due to organized crime and remaining armed groups. These ongoing economic difficulties and security issues continue to drive Colombians to seek opportunities and safety elsewhere, with the United States being a major destination. Colombian immigrants often arrive in the U.S. with hopes of escaping violence, finding economic stability, and securing a better future for their families. The U.S. government has acknowledged the complex situation in Colombia, sometimes offering temporary protected status, TPS, to individuals fleeing dire circumstances, providing a temporary legal haven. Colombian immigrants contribute significantly to the cultural and economic fabric of the United States. They bring with them a rich cultural heritage, a strong work ethic, and diverse skills. However, they also face obstacles, including navigating the intricate U.S. immigration system, overcoming language barriers, and integrating into American society while often dealing with the trauma of past experiences. The journey itself can be perilous, and securing legal status remains a significant hurdle for many. The Colombian presence in the U.S. reflects both the aspirations of those seeking refuge and opportunity, and the ongoing challenges within their homeland that necessitate migration. At number 12 on our list is the Dominican Republic. This Caribbean nation shares the island of Hispaniola with Haiti and has a long, complex history of emigration to the United States. This migration has been primarily driven by a combination of compelling economic and political factors stretching back decades. Historically, during the mid-20th century, the dictatorial regime of Rafael Trujillo imposed severe restrictions, making it incredibly difficult for Dominicans to leave the country. However, following his assassination in 1961, the political landscape shifted dramatically, opening the doors for increased emigration. The ensuing political unrest and persistent economic challenges, coupled with a significant U.S. military intervention in 1965, prompted many urban professionals and members of the middle class to seek better opportunities and greater stability abroad. The United States, due to its geographical proximity and perceived economic promise, became a primary destination. Fast forward to today, and the Dominican diaspora in the U.S. is one of the largest from the Caribbean. Estimates suggest that about 3/4 of all Dominican migrants worldwide reside in the United States. A significant concentration of this population has settled in New York City, particularly in neighborhoods like Washington Heights, creating vibrant communities that maintain strong ties to their homeland. According to recent estimates, around 164,000 Dominicans in the U.S. were unauthorized immigrants, constituting approximately 1% of the total unauthorized population in the country. Despite these numbers concerning unauthorized status, Dominican immigrants, as a group, exhibit higher enrollment rates in public health insurance compared to other foreign-born populations. This might explain why, in 2022, only about 13% were uninsured, a figure notably lower than the 18% average for all immigrants in the U.S. This suggests a greater integration into certain aspects of the U.S. social safety net, even while facing the challenges common to many immigrant communities, including navigating legal status and achieving economic mobility. Coming in at number 11 is Vietnam. Vietnamese immigration to the United States is deeply rooted in the tumultuous aftermath of the Vietnam War. The fall of Saigon on April 30, 1975, marked a pivotal moment, triggering a significant wave of Vietnamese immigrants seeking refuge from the newly established communist regime. These individuals and families fled political persecution, re-education camps, and economic hardship. Initially, the vast majority arrived as refugees, granted entry under specific U.S. policies designed to assist those displaced by the conflict and its consequences. This first wave often included individuals who had ties to the former South Vietnamese government or the U.S. military. However, the nature of Vietnamese immigration has evolved over the decades. While the initial influx was primarily refugee-based, contemporary migration patterns have shifted. Nowadays, about 87% of new Vietnamese lawful permanent residents gain their status through family reunification channels. This significant shift reflects a maturing diaspora, where established immigrants sponsor relatives to join them in the United States, creating strong intergenerational family networks. This emphasis on family-based immigration highlights the enduring importance of kinship ties within the Vietnamese community. Interestingly, while Vietnamese immigrants might, on average, report lower levels of formal education attainment or English proficiency compared to some other immigrant groups, they tend to have higher median household incomes than both the overall immigrant population and the U.S.-born population. This points towards strong community support networks, high labor force participation, and potentially multi-generational households contributing to collective economic well-being. In terms of unauthorized immigration, the numbers are relatively smaller compared to other groups on this list. As of 2021, there were approximately 76,000 undocumented Vietnamese immigrants living in the U.S., representing a small fraction of the total unauthorized population. Health-wise, Vietnamese immigrants generally fare well regarding insurance coverage, with only about 7% lacking health insurance in 2022. This rate is significantly lower than the 18% average for all immigrants, suggesting effective utilization of available public or private insurance options within the community. At number 10, we find Cuba. Cuban immigration to the United States presents a unique and historically charged narrative, shaped by decades of political tension and distinct immigration policies. The story is intertwined with both economic aspirations and profound political motivations, largely stemming from the Cuban Revolution of 1959 and the subsequent establishment of a communist state under Fidel Castro. Relations between Cuba and the U.S. have been fraught since the early 20th century, even including U.S. attempts to purchase the island from Spain in the mid-1800s. The U.S. gained temporary control after the Treaty of Paris in 1898. The revolution, however, marked a definitive break, leading to waves of Cubans fleeing the new regime, fearing political persecution and seeking refuge in the U.S. Early waves consisted largely of the upper and middle classes, but subsequent migration events, like the Mariel boat lift in 1980, brought Cubans from more diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. U.S. policy towards Cuban migrants has been exceptional compared to other nationalities. The Cuban Adjustment Act of 1966 allowed Cubans who reached U.S. soil to apply for permanent residency after 1 year, a policy often referred to as wet foot, dry foot. This created a unique pathway to legal status unavailable to most other immigrant groups. Although the wet foot, dry foot policy was rescinded in 2017, its legacy continues to shape the Cuban American community. Today, Cubans represent one of the largest Caribbean immigrant groups in the U.S. A very significant concentration resides in the Miami metropolitan area in Florida, creating a powerful cultural and political enclave. Economic factors also play a role, as Cuba's state-controlled economy has faced significant challenges, exacerbated by the long-standing U.S. embargo. Many Cubans seek better economic opportunities and a higher standard of living in the United States. Recently, the CHNV, Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, parole program has facilitated the lawful entry of thousands, providing a legal pathway intended to deter risky irregular migration, such as sea voyages. While Cuban immigrants have historically faced unique challenges and periods of strained reception, they continue to play a vital role in the diverse tapestry of U.S. immigration, contributing significantly to the culture, economy, and politics, particularly in South Florida. Number 9 on our list is Ecuador. Ecuadorians have been making their way to the United States for a considerable period, and the reasons behind this migration trend are multifaceted, encompassing both economic hardship and concerns over safety and stability. Economic factors are a primary driver. Many families, particularly from rural areas like the El Cantón Cañar region in the southern Andes, grapple with persistent poverty, significant land shortages, and discrimination, especially affecting indigenous communities. In these regions, ancestral land is often fragmented into plots too small, minifundios, to sustain a family through agriculture alone. This lack of viable economic opportunities pushes many, especially young people, to seek better prospects abroad, with the United States being a prime destination due to perceived job availability and higher potential earnings. The journey, however, is often fraught with peril and expense. Many Ecuadorians rely on intermediaries, known colloquially as coyotes, or document forgers, to undertake the clandestine passage, often traversing dangerous routes through Central America and Mexico. Once in the U.S., they frequently settle in established Ecuadorian communities, particularly in the New York City metropolitan area, especially Queens, which hosts a large and vibrant Ecuadorian population. These communities provide crucial social and economic support networks. In recent years, the situation in Ecuador has become increasingly dire, adding urgency to emigration decisions. Since 2021, over 430,000 Ecuadorians have left the country, driven not only by ongoing economic pressures, but also by escalating violence and insecurity linked to organized crime and drug trafficking. This crisis, marked by violence, political instability, and a struggling economy, has made daily life precarious for many. People are fleeing not just for economic betterment, but to escape the growing danger in their homeland. This confluence of factors, deep-seated poverty, lack of opportunity, and rising insecurity, continues to fuel Ecuadorian migration towards the United States, despite the significant risks involved in the journey. The diaspora reflects a population seeking refuge, stability, and the hope for a more secure future. Ranking at number 8, we examine Brazil. Brazilian immigration to the United States gained momentum primarily in the 1980s, largely propelled by significant economic turmoil within Brazil during that period. The country was wrestling with hyperinflation, which persisted until the implementation of the Plano Real in 1994. This intense economic instability made life incredibly difficult for its citizens, eroding savings and making basic necessities hard to afford. This economic pressure led many Brazilians, often described as economic refugees, to seek opportunities abroad. They were drawn to the United States by the prospect of higher wages, a lower relative cost of living compared to the inflated Brazilian economy at the time, and greater overall economic stability. The financial incentive was powerful. Many Brazilians knew they could potentially earn up to 4 times the salary in the U.S. for performing the same job they held in Brazil. This wage differential served as a strong motivator for those looking to improve their quality of life and support families back home. Fast forward to the present day, And while the hyperinflation crisis is long past, economic factors remain a significant driver for Brazilian migration, albeit alongside other motivations like seeking educational opportunities or specific career paths. Once in the United States, Brazilian immigrants tend to settle in specific states, creating notable communities. Florida, California, Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey are home to the majority of Brazilians living in the U.S. According to recent estimates, these 5 states host approximately 63% of the entire Brazilian immigrant population. Florida, in particular, has emerged as a major stronghold for the Brazilian community, with large populations in cities like Orlando and Miami. These concentrated communities provide a sense of familiarity, cultural connection, and mutual support for newcomers navigating life in a new country, helping them establish businesses, find employment, and maintain cultural traditions. The vibrant Brazilian culture and strong community bonds in these areas are a testament to the resilience and contributions of this immigrant group. At number 7, we find the Philippines. The history of migration from the Philippines to the United States is long and deeply intertwined with the colonial past shared by the two nations. This movement dates back to the late 19th century, following the Spanish-American War and the subsequent U.S. colonization of the Philippines. This historical connection established strong political, military, and educational ties that facilitated early migration flows. Initially, the demand for labor was a major pull factor. Thousands of Filipino immigrants, known as cicadas, were recruited to work on Hawaiian sugar plantations and later on California farmlands, often replacing Japanese workers who were leaving agricultural labor. These early migrants faced significant hardship and discrimination. Over the decades, the motivations for Filipino migration have diversified, but economic factors remain central. The Philippines continues to face challenges such as limited high-paying job opportunities, inadequate medical facilities in some areas, and high crime rates in others. These push factors drive many Filipinos to seek a better life and greater economic security abroad. The United States, with its perceived opportunities and established Filipino communities, remains a highly desirable destination. On the pull side, the U.S. offers more robust educational and healthcare systems, along with the promise of a higher standard of living and greater personal safety compared to certain regions in the Philippines. Historically, many Filipinos were also drawn to the U.S. for work opportunities, particularly in agriculture and healthcare sectors, where Filipino nurses, for example, have made substantial contributions. Today, Filipinos constitute one of the largest Asian immigrant groups in the U.S. According to the 2020 census data, there were approximately 4.4 million Filipino Americans residing in the country. However, not all Filipino immigrants possess legal status. Estimates from 2022 suggested there were around 350,000 undocumented Filipino immigrants in the U.S., making them the 5th largest group of undocumented immigrants, following those from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Despite facing hurdles, including historical prejudice similar to that experienced by other Asian immigrant groups, though perhaps less codified than the Chinese Exclusion Act, discrimination was still prevalent. Filipinos have significantly contributed to American society. Their contributions are notable in the labor movement, military service, including veterans of World War II, healthcare, education, and numerous other fields. They continue to be a vital part of the U.S. immigrant society, navigating the complexities of immigration policies while maintaining strong cultural ties to their homeland. Number 6 brings us to China. Chinese immigration to the United States is another migration story with deep historical roots and complex contemporary drivers. It represents a significant portion of the U.S. immigrant population, ranking among the top countries of origin. As of 2023, Chinese immigrants constituted a major group, following closely behind Mexicans and Indians in terms of foreign-born populations residing in the U.S. The reasons for this migration are varied, stemming from both historical patterns and modern push and pull factors. Historically, Chinese immigrants began arriving in the U.S. in significant numbers during the mid-19th century, initially drawn by the California gold rush and later by labor opportunities, particularly in the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad and in agriculture. However, they faced severe discrimination and hostility, culminating in the infamous Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. This was the first major U.S. law restricting immigration based explicitly on nationality, barring Chinese laborers and preventing those already in the U.S. from becoming citizens. This dark chapter reflects the intense prejudice faced by early Chinese arrivals. In modern times, the flow of Chinese immigrants continues, driven by a different set of factors. While China's rapid economic growth has lifted millions out of poverty, it has also created significant social and economic disparities, intense competition, and environmental concerns. Issues like severe pollution in major cities, limited personal and political freedoms under the communist regime, and a highly competitive job market push many Chinese nationals to seek opportunities and a different quality of life abroad. The United States, with its reputation for freedom, innovation, educational excellence, and economic opportunity, remains a natural and appealing destination. Higher education is a major pull factor. Chinese students consistently make up one of the largest cohorts of international students in American universities. Many are drawn by the quality and prestige of U.S. higher education and choose to stay after completing their studies, seeking careers and permanent residency through employment-based or family-based channels. However, the journey is not always straightforward. Chinese immigrants, like others, face the challenge of navigating complex U.S. immigration laws. Furthermore, recent geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China have added another layer of complexity, affecting everything from trade relations to visa policies and creating an environment of increased scrutiny for some Chinese nationals seeking to enter or reside in the U.S. Despite these historical and contemporary challenges, Chinese immigrants continue to contribute significantly to American society across various sectors, including technology, academia, business, and the arts, enriching the American mosaic with their cultural heritage and entrepreneurial spirit. Moving into the top 5, at number 5, is Honduras. Honduras, a Central American nation, has witnessed a substantial number of its citizens migrate to the United States over the years, a trend driven by a confluence of severe and often overlapping challenges. As of 2022, estimates place the number of unauthorized immigrants from Honduras living in the U.S. at approximately 525,000, making them one of the largest groups within the undocumented population. This significant migration flow is propelled by several powerful push factors. Endemic poverty remains a stark reality for a large portion of the Honduran population, making it difficult to achieve economic stability or upward mobility. Compounding this is pervasive violence, largely fueled by gang activity, including transnational gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18, and drug trafficking, which creates an environment of fear and insecurity in many communities. Political corruption and instability have also plagued the country, undermining trust in institutions and exacerbating existing problems. Furthermore, Honduras is highly vulnerable to natural disasters, such as hurricanes and extreme weather events linked to climate change. These disasters frequently devastate communities, destroying homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods, particularly in agricultural areas, leaving many with no choice but to migrate. Hurricane Mitch in 1998, and more recently Hurricanes Eta and Iota in 2020, had catastrophic impacts, displacing hundreds of thousands and worsening already precarious conditions. The COVID-19 pandemic further strained the already fragile economy and healthcare system, pushing more people towards emigration as a means of survival or seeking better opportunities. The journey from Honduras to the U.S. border is notoriously dangerous and arduous. Migrants often face perilous travel conditions, traversing multiple countries, and are vulnerable to extortion, violence, and exploitation by smugglers, coyotes, and criminal organizations along the route. Despite these immense risks, many Hondurans feel compelled to undertake the journey, viewing migration as their only viable option for safety, stability, and a chance at a better future. The U.S. government recognizes the complex drivers of Honduran migration and has implemented various programs aimed at addressing root causes and managing migration flows, such as the Central American Minors (KM) program, designed to provide safer, legal pathways for children to reunite with family in the U.S. However, these efforts face significant challenges due to the scale and complexity of the issues driving emigration. The stories of Honduran migrants reflect profound resilience and hope in the face of extreme adversity, while also highlighting the urgent need for comprehensive solutions that address both the root causes of migration in Honduras and the realities faced by those seeking refuge and opportunity in the U.S. At number 4, we find Guatemala. Guatemala, another key Central American nation, contributes significantly to migration flows towards the United States. The reasons mirror many of those seen in neighboring Honduras, rooted in deep-seated socioeconomic and security challenges. As of 2020, estimates indicated around 1.3 million Guatemalans resided in the U.S., with a substantial portion, potentially over half according to various sources over time, living without legal status, making them one of the largest undocumented immigrant groups. Poverty, hunger, and lack of economic opportunity are major driving forces. Guatemala remains one of the poorest countries in Latin America, with high rates of malnutrition and food insecurity, particularly in rural and indigenous communities. The Western Highlands region, predominantly populated by indigenous Maya groups, suffers from extreme poverty, limited access to basic services like education and healthcare, and historical marginalization. Agricultural stress, often exacerbated by climate change impacts like droughts or unpredictable rainfall, further undermines livelihoods for smallholder farmers. Land tenure issues and lack of investment in rural development contribute to the scarcity of viable economic options. Violence and insecurity, while perhaps differently characterized than in El Salvador or Honduras at certain times, are also significant push factors. Although the country's long civil war ended in 1996, its legacy includes weak institutions, corruption, and ongoing issues with organized crime and localized violence, which can make communities unsafe. Lack of trust in the justice system further compounds these issues. For many young Guatemalans, migration appears as the only pathway to escape these conditions and achieve a better future. Remittances sent back home by Guatemalans working in the U.S. play a crucial, indispensable role in the Guatemalan economy, often surpassing government revenue and export values. This financial support is a lifeline for countless families, covering basic needs like food, housing, and education. Yet it also underscores the national economy's dependency on migration. Efforts to manage migration from Guatemala involve exploring temporary legal work pathways and addressing root causes, but the deep-seated nature of poverty, inequality, and institutional weakness makes finding sustainable solutions incredibly complex. The journey for Guatemalan migrants is perilous, often involving reliance on smugglers and facing dangers throughout Central America and Mexico. Their stories are ones of determination and the pursuit of dignity and opportunity against formidable odds. Number 3 on the list is India. India, a country with a rich history, diverse culture, and one of the world's fastest-growing major economies, is also a significant source of immigrants to the United States, including a substantial undocumented population. The reasons driving Indian migration to the U.S. are varied, combining economic aspirations, educational pursuits, and family reunification. One of the primary drivers is economic opportunity. Despite India's rapid economic growth, it still grapples with high unemployment rates, particularly among youth, and limited job prospects in certain sectors or regions relative to its massive population of over 1.4 billion people. Many Indians, especially those from wealthier states like Punjab and Gujarat, perceive the United States as a land of opportunity where they can find better-paying jobs and significantly improve their quality of life. The potential to earn substantially more for similar work is a powerful pull factor. Educational opportunity is another major draw. The U.S. boasts many of the world's top universities, attracting a large number of Indian students seeking higher education and specialized skills. India is consistently among the top countries sending international students to the U.S. Many of these students aspire to stay and work in the U.S. after graduation, contributing to the skilled workforce, particularly in STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As of 2022, estimates suggested there were about 725,000 undocumented Indian immigrants in the U.S., making them the third largest group after Mexicans and Salvadorans. This number highlights that migration pathways are not always straightforward, even for those with skills or educational goals. A rise in illegal border crossings has been observed, with many Indians entering through the U.S.-Mexico border, or increasingly, via the less guarded U.S.-Canada border. These journeys can be perilous and costly, often requiring migrants to sell assets or take out significant loans to finance the trip and pay smugglers. Social networks and family reunification also play a crucial role. Many Indians have relatives already settled in the U.S., and the prospect of joining them provides both emotional support and practical assistance in navigating a new country. The established Indian diaspora creates communities that help newcomers integrate, find jobs, and maintain cultural connections. There's also a certain social prestige associated with having family members successfully settled abroad, which can further encourage migration. Indian immigrants contribute significantly to American society in diverse fields, known for their strong work ethic, high levels of education in many cases, and entrepreneurial spirit, particularly in technology, medicine, and business. Coming in at number 2 is El Salvador. El Salvador, a small Central American country, holds a significant place in the landscape of U.S. immigration, largely due to decades of migration driven primarily by violence, political instability, and economic hardship. It consistently ranks as one of the top countries of origin for undocumented immigrants in the United States. The primary reason many Salvadorans migrate to the U.S. is to escape pervasive violence and political instability. El Salvador has been plagued by extraordinarily high levels of gang violence for years, with powerful transnational gangs like MS-13, Mara Salvatrucha, and Barrio 18 deeply entrenched in communities. These gangs engage in extortion, drug trafficking, and brutal violence, creating an atmosphere of constant fear and making daily life dangerous for ordinary citizens, particularly youth who are often targeted for recruitment or become victims of violence. This insecurity has driven hundreds of thousands to seek safety and refuge elsewhere. Political instability and corruption have also contributed to the challenges faced by Salvadorans, weakening state institutions and hindering effective responses to crime and poverty. The country endured a brutal civil war from 1980 to 1992, the legacy of which includes deep social divisions and ongoing institutional fragility. Economic factors are inextricably linked to these issues. El Salvador is one of the poorest countries in Latin America, characterized by limited job opportunities, low wages, and significant economic inequality. Violence disrupts economic activity and investment, while poverty makes populations more vulnerable to both crime and the impacts of natural disasters. Many Salvadorans see migration to the U.S. as the only viable path to economic survival and the ability to support their families. Remittances sent home by Salvadorans working in the U.S. are absolutely vital to the Salvadoran economy, accounting for a substantial portion of the country's gross domestic product, GDP. This money provides essential support for families, covering basic needs and sometimes enabling small investments, but it also highlights the economy's reliance on immigration. Family ties and reunification are another key driver. Many Salvadorans have family members who established themselves in the U.S. during earlier waves of migration, often linked to the Civil War, and the desire to reunite with loved ones remains a powerful motivator. As of recent years, Salvadorans make up a substantial portion of the undocumented immigrant population in the U.S., highlighting the enduring connection and migration flow between the two countries, shaped profoundly by the search for safety and economic stability. And finally, at number 1, the country that remains the largest source of immigrants, both documented and undocumented, to the United States, is Mexico. Its proximity, sharing a nearly 2,000-mile border, and deep historical, economic, and cultural ties make this connection unique and enduring. For a long time, Mexico has been the predominant source of immigrants arriving in America. As of 2023, estimates suggested there were about 10.9 million people residing in the U.S. who were born in Mexico. While this number represents a slight decline from its peak around 2010, Mexicans still constitute the largest single group of foreign-born individuals in the country by a significant margin. However, the composition of Mexican migration has been evolving. While the total number of Mexican-born residents has decreased slightly, the number of undocumented immigrants from Mexico has seen a more notable decline since its peak in 2007. In 2022, Pew Research Center estimated that unauthorized immigrants from Mexico numbered around 4.1 million, down from a high of nearly 7 million. Despite this decrease, they still represented the largest group by country of origin among the undocumented population, accounting for about 37% of the total in 2022, although this share is the smallest on record, indicating the increasing diversity of unauthorized migration sources. Economic opportunity has traditionally been a major driver of Mexican migration to the U.S. Many Mexicans, particularly from rural areas or regions with limited job prospects, have historically sought work in U.S. industries like agriculture, construction, hospitality, and services, often finding higher wages than available back home. These economic disparities, though narrowing in some respects over time, continue to motivate migration. Family reunification is another critical factor. Generations of migration have created extensive family networks spanning both sides of the border. Many Mexicans migrate to join spouses, parents, children, or other relatives already living in the U.S., maintaining strong transnational family ties. Safety concerns also play a role, although perhaps less uniformly than in some Central American countries. Certain regions in Mexico face significant challenges with violence related to drug cartels and organized crime. This insecurity can act as a push factor, compelling some individuals and families to leave in search of a safer environment, particularly in border states or areas heavily impacted by cartel activity. Despite the decline in the overall share of undocumented immigrants from Mexico, the country remains central to the U.S. immigration narrative due to the sheer volume of cross-border movement, the long shared history, and the complex interplay of economic, social, and security factors that continue to shape migration patterns between the two neighboring nations. So, what can we conclude from this overview? The face of immigration to the United States is undeniably changing. While Mexico remains the single largest country of origin, its dominance, particularly among the undocumented population, is diminishing as migration from Central American countries like Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, as well as from nations further afield like India, China, and Nigeria, increases. The reasons for migration are complex and varied, ranging from seeking economic opportunity and escaping poverty, to fleeing violence and political instability, pursuing education, and reuniting with family. There isn't a single story, but rather millions of individual journeys driven by a combination of push factors in their home countries and pull factors in the United States. Addressing the challenges and opportunities presented by this evolving migration landscape requires nuanced, comprehensive approaches that consider the root causes in countries of origin, the realities of the journey, the complexities of U.S. immigration law, and the integration processes for those who arrive. Understanding these shifting demographics and motivations is crucial for informed policy discussions and for recognizing the diverse contributions immigrants continue to make to American society. Thanks for watching.